Welcome everyone, and thank you for coming. Also to our fantastic speakers joining us this evening. We've got Justin, Matt, Holly, and Dave Carr from Decentraland. We've been working really hard around our technical development internally in the past couple of weeks, and that also translates over to our hiring as well. So, little update from, I guess, the community aspect of Boson Protocol here. Yeah, as I say, we've been working hard on the technical aspect of it, also in scaling our team. We've had 2 new joiners this week, and we've got another at least 10 coming in the next 3 weeks. So, yeah, it's an exciting time ahead. We've got lots of people coming on board, all absolutely amazing talents, and really getting on board this rocket ship that we're going on, and it's going to go beyond the moon. The moon is very 2020, so we're setting a new pace there. We also still have quite a lot of roles open. So those of you that are tuning in, there's one role in particular that I really want to talk to you about, and that is our Metaverse Partnerships Manager. You can view the spec on our jobs board, which is boars.greenhouse.io/Boson Protocol. And this role would be absolutely ideal for someone who is super embedded in gaming and the Metaverse as well, and really wants to spark those partnerships and go out there in an outbound kind of business development role, but just working with amazing and awesome partners on that front. So please get in touch, share the job board around, and become part of the Boson team here. Some interesting news sort of around the industry as a whole is that I'm not sure it's necessarily news, but there's lots and lots of sports teams getting in on the NFT action, which is really cool to see. Juventus just announced that they're launching an NFT for some memorabilia and limited edition runs. So, who knows how long it's going to be before they start looking at the digital to physical side of it. And it's not just football. Those of you that are into ice hockey, I'm slightly biased because I play ice hockey. You will have seen that Crypto.com have been advertising around the boards at the World Championships last month, and they were actually making some NFTs of the players, which was kind of cool. I was trying to get some NFTs from my friends. But on the point of Crypto.com, we will be live for trading from 7 a.m. UTC tomorrow on Crypto.com. So that was some other big news coming out of our camp this week. Also, Stella Artois getting in on the NFT game around horse racing as well. And yeah, it's just great to see the lines between digital and reality are becoming more and more blurred, which I think I'm going to not say too much more on that and use it as a segue to pass you over to Justin and Matt in the Metaverse.
Brief sojourn into Decentraland, and I think someone is about to send you some coordinates. We'll give you a quick walk around of the site and talk to you a little bit about the plans that we have over the next few months and why we're doing it, and then we'll have a chat with David and Holly from Decentraland. So please join us in the Unicorn Red realm at this location. There's screen sharing as well. A few people here, that's great. Filling up. Give you a couple more minutes to come and talk to you about what we're building. Join us underneath the floating lozenge. Yes. Cool. Awesome. Justin, do you want to kick off, or?
Sure. So, as you know, presumably all of you know, Boson Protocol is this really core and foundational piece of technology that enables sort of digital to physical redemption. So it's It's a decentralized protocol for enabling commerce without an intermediary. And so, you know, it's this really foundational piece of Web3. But our vision with our sort of foray into the metaverse is to install Boson Protocol as the sort of the default infrastructure for enabling commerce in the metaverse. And so, you know, there are these, you know, two major trends that are emerging. One of them is the whole kind of digital asset NFT trend, and the other is this rise of these sort of metaverses, so these persistent digital spaces and virtual worlds. I mean, you'd have all seen in the press, you know, the kind of the Gucci bag in Roblox, and you know, just it's these huge kind of, you know, the recent Stella Artois NFT example, and so what we're adding to this is, what if the items that you could buy in game were redeemable for sort of real world products in retail? So we've recently bought this significant plot of premium space in Decentraland, and we're building on top of this, working with the Decentraland team, this virtual mall experience. But this is really, you know, the first of a succession of these malls where we will be installing Boson technology in every world, and with the ambition of being in every world and every game across the metaverse. Matt, I don't know if I hand over to you to talk a little bit more about what that experience looks like.
Absolutely. So I mean, I think, you know, what we're trying to do is we're trying to sort of enable and connect sort of on-chain, you know, applications and transactions with everything else in the world. And I think that's a really good sort of opportunity and an analogy with, say, with growth in metaverses and virtual worlds, where you have this huge sort of burgeoning open economy, you know, marketplaces that enable people to trade and, you know, exchange digital items. Well, we think there's a big opportunity in connecting that kind of trade with real world commerce, and that is actually sort of like at the heart of what we're trying to do as a project overall. It's just that, you know, working in worlds and environments like this with, you know, lots of engaged users is a great testing ground for us, and also gives us a really interesting and sort of vibrant kind of go-to-market, right? So we're looking to sort of introduce into these virtual worlds, starting with Decentraland, the ability for people to sell real world items, so exchange in-game items and then redeem those, or enable the ability for people to go to a real world location and pick up a physical counterpart to go with it. It's a sort of great starting point for us, and it also enables us to test our product with people who are familiar with the user experience of crypto transactions and things like that. So what we're planning to build in this space, and then more broadly sort of beyond here into a number of other environments over time, is a sort of a retail, sort of cultural and commercial sort of playground, where we bring you know, a lot of big brands who are interested and who we've been speaking to, a platform to be able to experiment with digital culture and digital commerce, right, in a way that's sort of, you know, open and you know, fair, and in a way that, you know, some of these walled gardens, like you know, some of the sort of like the closed games are not yet. So what we're gonna have here is a sort of like a multi-purpose space that's going to have space for sort of small creators and sort of, you know, an Etsy style marketplace where people can come in and sort of, you know, do some stuff themselves. So we're going to have some bigger event spaces that enable, you know, large sort of standout sort of media friendly ideas, particularly in the run up to Christmas. We think, you know, there's so much interest and enthusiasm with sort of, you know, digital assets and NFT enabled promotions in sort of fashion and lifestyle, that we can provide a really simple and easy way for those sorts of brands and those sorts of companies to experiment. And we're sort of looking for, I guess people who are likely to be watching this either live or in any of the playbacks that we do, who can join our kind of creator network to enable, some of those brands to sort of develop and deliver concepts in this environment, or indeed, anyone who thinks that they may have an interesting sort of digital to physical concept, which this might be a good platform or a jumping off point for. Next week we'll be announcing a grants program, and then there'll be some stuff there in that. But also, we're all available on Telegram or in Discord to sort of talk more about what your ideas might be and how we could kind of create this together.
Yeah. I mean, and to sort of add to that, so this virtual mall concept is very much about promoting metaverse commerce, promoting the metaverse, and promoting this concept of sort of open commerce that is free from excessive extraction. And so everything we're doing here is about stimulating an ecosystem and driving usage of Boson Protocol. So the sort of formats that we will be supporting brands to create experiences will be, so this whole crossover between in-game and in-store. So talking about these in-game experiences where we can offer a retail concession within the sort of mall experience. Brands can do like limited edition product launches, so can create like these hero items that can be sold exclusively in world. NFT rewards, fashion shows, and then these really engaging virtual experiences, combining things like in-game quests. So we are working with a number of brands, some big and some small. Really, for us as well, it's quite a grassroots effort in terms of sponsoring, enabling some of the more emergent digital fashion and commerce startups. So one great example is an amazing digital fashion startup called Aurora. We're really proud to announce, we've sponsored, as part of our grant program, we sponsored their London Fashion Week show last Saturday, and on an ongoing basis, we will be sponsoring them, creating this amazing digital space in the metaverse that covers all those things I mentioned of concessions, quests, an amazing hero item that will be both digital and physical. And so if you can imagine having this amazing in-world space, and then it will be paired with a real world sort of in-store experience, where if you can imagine like a portal where you can look into the portal and see into Decentraland, into this virtual mall, engage with an NPC, get coordinates to come and complete a quest. And if you do all of this, you get the chance to buy this super rare sort of hero item. So it's all about this connection between the metaverse and the universe, and Boson as this sort of commerce bridge, enabling these amazing experiences.
It's worth also just sort of, this kind of teaser scene we've got here, you can see that there are 12 sort of portals spread around the space. The portal is essentially sort of symbolic of, this kind of connection between sort of like the virtual and the real that sort of, Boson enables this sort of on-chain to off-chain or decentralized exchange of anything type model. But in the context of what we're doing here within sort of like our metaverses proposition, it's sort of, each one of these things will become a moment which we launch over the course of the lifetime of this product. Some big, some small, with partners around real world pop-ups to enable redemption of digital items that you can buy in our environment, or unique experiences, that kind of thing. So we're here sort of to experiment and to learn ourselves, and to sort of support the community to create some great environments. We're building a creator program, so the team at Polygonal Mind, Sam and his team have been helping us with some of this work, and we're working with other sort of creators and designers to sort of help sort of bring concepts to life, and then concept stuff with some of the bigger brand partners that we'll be working with. So if that's of interest to you and you want to kind of get involved, then just get in touch with us too. We have a few questions. Have we got time for questions, or are we out of time?
We have 4 minutes left over, so we can certainly field some questions now, or we can stock them up for the end.
Okay.
Let's tackle a few now. Is it possible that yes? Bear with me. I think these might be mostly questions for the end, but let's go with this one here. Have you been in discussions for partnerships with any other districts like Fashion Street, not just Vegas City?
We've had quite a few conversations with different partners, and whereas this virtual mall is kind of like an expo, it's a showcase of what the technology can enable. The aim is to work with all of the different districts, all of the different builders, to use Boson technology to seamlessly enable digital to physical transactions and experiences.
It's worth mentioning that we're not building sort of like a proprietary technology which can only be used here. Our intention is to create a sort of a general purpose sort of digital to physical plugin that anyone can implement. And this is really a sort of like Justin says, a showcase or an expo, but longer term, someone does put something in the chat about, are we licensing this? The plan isn't to license it. The plan is to sort of make it available and then enable builders and other property owners and potential partners to actually use it. Our interest is in enabling and supporting the development of sort of what we call dCommerce, like decentralized e-commerce via the Boson Protocol. And this is a sort of one of our starting points, and we hope to make it much bigger and much broader than just us working on it.
That's great, thank you. I think I can handle this next question, which is, do we invite people to Decentraland Boson coordinates to bring more awareness to both Mana and Boson? I think the answer to that one is absolutely yes. Got one more here, and then we'll move on to the fireside chat and save the rest for the Q&A at the end. We've got, will we provide an SDK so it opens Boson technology across DCL and across the Metaverse, different virtual worlds?
I mean, that's absolutely on the roadmap. We're building our sort of showcase first, and we have our documentation site available right now, docs.bosonprotocol.io, which is sort of like at the moment is a sort of an intro and sort of get started. But we plan to increasingly make that sort of stuff available and increase the developability of the protocol. There is a process to sort of build this and then get to there, but yes, that is the plan.
Yeah, and I think even further is to work, having Boson Protocol as part of the sort of the developer toolkit, the sort of builder toolkit for each of these worlds, so that builders can just pretty seamlessly just kind of integrate digital physical redemptions in as much ease as they would add a digital wearable.
Yeah, I think Decentraland, as well as many of the other worlds, are looking to sort of like increase the usability and the functionality of their environments, and we hope to support that. We've also been talking to the Metaverses team at Polygon, and they're very pretty much ubiquitous across the gaming ecosystem, and they're very interested in sort of supporting other sort of ingredient technologies to sort of like enable that kind of environment. So we're really keen to be part of those conversations and use that as a means of bringing this to the forefront. Cool.
Awesome. Well, sounds like there are some seriously exciting times ahead. And I have to comment on some of the amazing outfits that I can see in Decentraland in our little plot there. I thought my shirt collection was loud and leery, but some of those outfits definitely take the biscuit there. Thank you so much, Justin and Matt. Really appreciate you coming on. And now I think it's time for Holly and Dave. So thanks, Justin, Matt.
Thank you.
Hi everyone. So this is going to be a bit of a fireside chat with me and Dave from Decentraland. I'm Holly. I'm head of Metaverse tech for Boson Protocol. Dave, would you like to give a bit of an intro and tell us what you do in your day-to-day?
Yeah, I work for the Decentraland Foundation, which is the non-profit organisation that effectively supports decentralization in world. We report on activities that happen in Decentraland, and I work in the comms and marketing team for the foundation.
Amazing. And what does Boson Protocol's land purchase signify for Decentraland, in your opinion?
Well, it's a big new element for the users and that experience of immersiveness, I guess, that is the whole point of Decentraland. I think, listening to the discussion with Justin and Matt, and this idea of this bridge between digital and physical, I think it kind of feels like, from my perspective, it just feels like it brings that legitimacy of Decentraland not only into people's kind of consciousness, but also this reachability, I suppose, from where we are now. I think it just makes it feel a bit more real, even though Decentraland is a platform and it's an experience that is designed to stand alone. And I think for creators, it offers a really interesting opportunity to have an economy, to make a living effectively out of their experience in Decentraland.
That's such a good point, and I think it leads nicely into the next question I have for you, which is, what are some of the trends you are currently seeing in the metaverse?
Yeah, in terms of the community, I think we mentioned the creators and this creator economy. I think we've recently launched the wearables editor, and that enables creators to effectively organize and publish and mint wearables for avatars. So that's really giving them the power to earn a living from their creations in Decentraland. I think some of the other major developments are around the DAO, which is our decentralized autonomous organization, and that's a huge step in terms of governance for the community, which is a massive step in terms of this whole theory and practice of decentralization. So yeah, the DAO, and they're all integrated, intertwined in some way, and off the back of the DAO, which the most recent release was just implemented. You have the community grants that really just this week have been announced, which enables the community, specifically creators, to apply for grants in Mana and use that funding to create different elements and experiences for the community.
Amazing. So we've touched on wearables, and obviously we've seen some incredible wearables just now. What forms of commerce are you seeing occur in the metaverse more generally?
For a long time, we've had the marketplace where people could buy and sell land, wearables, obviously, that were part of official releases. There are also avatar names, that sort of thing. So that commerce has been underlying for some time. But I think, again, with the idea of the wearables editor and the community grants, that creator economy is really starting to take off. And so then I think when you bring something like Boson into that equation, it's the part of that idea of this realness that I think that I was mentioning before, which is the creators and the community can kind of see that this has now got application outside of Decentraland, and it just adds that whole other layer to that experience. So it's early days for commerce, but it's moving really quickly.
Absolutely. Yeah, I guess from Boson's perspective, we intend to open up the metaverse to a whole new world of retailers, both in Web 2 and Web 3, which, in my opinion, brings great opportunity to Decentraland's users, as well as more generally buyers and sellers in a more traditional context, which I think is fantastic. So how can those brands get involved in the metaverse, and what are some other exciting projects going on right now?
There's a lot of brands that are interested in being involved in Decentraland and offering some kind of experience to the community. A lot of the discussions are kind of exploratory and like educational, I suppose, because it is such a new thing, and there's been so much news about metaverses, obviously of late, due to this massive popularity of NFTs and things like that. So yeah, there are brands across various industries that are starting to dip their toe in the water, if you like. And I think what's crucial for brands and Decentraland is this notion of not simply replicating the experience of that brand as it exists in the physical world. I think the most valuable applications that we've seen so far, and I guess you could pull up a recent example being Sotheby's, is that they have looked at Decentraland and they have tried to create something that obviously engages with the community, but is something unique to the platform. And so the user that is engaging with Sotheby's in Decentraland is getting something that, while they have replicated their building, their London offices, or their London galleries, I should say, in Decentraland, it is still a very uniquely metaverse experience. So I think that application that Sotheby's has done, which is it's the oldest auction house, and they've managed to, I think, seamlessly kind of find a place in the metaverse among the more established, I guess, digital houses, digital art houses like Maker's Place, Super Rare, those kinds of galleries. So yeah, I think for brands, it's as I said before, it's a matter of finding their space in a way that really speaks to the community and provides a really unique Decentraland style experience for them. And
off the back of that, can you talk a bit more about the incredible events schedule that is going on in Decentraland? I know there's a lot happening all the time across the realms.
Yeah, there's events, and we have a very busy events listings page, and you'll see if you dip in there, and it's diverse as well. Like, you've got musical performances, you've got a lot of art exhibitions. Obviously, so art has a really strong application in Decentraland, and has for some time. But you'll see DJ nights. The Chinese community, which is very strong and very active, just put on a recent night, or it was middle of the day for us, but with a DJ, and it was probably one of the most incredible experience visual shows that have been on in the world. A lot of people just dropping in there and amazed at the visuals that were created for that. So yeah, there's a real mix of things going on every day. And I think in terms of big events that are coming up, we've got the Decentraland Art Week that is happening in July, that launches July 8. And that's the second art week. Last year was around May time, and we had our existing galleries in there, some of which I mentioned before. This one's going to be much bigger, more artists, some better known artists as well. And so obviously, as I said, art has a real application in Decentraland, so something like an art week is, it makes sense because it's well established. But I think you can expect to see a lot more in terms of music performances. I think fashion is an area, obviously with wearables, it's a strong creator interest, but I think that there's a real application for real world fashion houses to get involved. So yeah, I think really sky's the limit in terms of the mix and the scale of events that are coming up.
Absolutely, and you can imagine when Boson Protocol is fully integrated, all of the amazing physical items that can be offered as part of events such as Art Week, physical artworks, as well as quality brand items from those fashion houses as well. That's absolutely amazing. Can you describe more now about the journey Decentraland has been on in terms of community governance? What's the sort of process that you see Decentraland going through to get to this, to get to all these incredible events and to get to where you are now?
In terms of community governance, as I mentioned briefly before, we recently put out a new implementation of the DAO, and so that. And as I've said, it's early days, but it's a huge step in terms of decentralization and the governance for the community to take really responsibility and ownership of the world, which is, that's the whole reason for being. It's a virtual social platform that is designed to be owned and governed by the people who use it. So already we're seeing people put forward proposals, many of which take the form of points of interest. So people requesting that things that they've built or scenes that they have or land that they own be added as points of interest to the Decentraland map. But also you're seeing a lot of proposals, suggestions and questions about the development of the world. Can we add certain features, technical questions and suggestions, a lot of really, really interesting proposals being put forward. And so that goes to the community, who then vote on whether or not to approve a proposal, and then that is eventually implemented into the world. So, and then as I mentioned again, just recently off the back of that, you've got the community grants. That is again, this is funds that is being provided from a funding pool. The community creators can apply for a grant, and it's across 4 different areas. So they can propose to do something from a content perspective, contribute to the platform. The other 2, I'm on the spot, is gaming, and finally, I think I mentioned community as well, developing the community. So community, the content, the platform development, and gaming are the 4 real areas that they can receive mana, 3 different tiers of payments, and effectively develop more for the experience of Decentraland.
That's incredible, and they are roles that simply did not exist a couple of years ago even. I mean, from our perspective, we at Boson, we will absolutely love to have events in Decentraland. And with that in mind, I think Alastair touched on it earlier, we'll be hiring for a Metaverse events and platforms manager and a Metaverse partnerships manager as well. So that should sit very nicely alongside these roles that you've just outlined, managing events, managing community. There's a whole bunch of stuff that will come up as part of the new Metaverse commerce industry, if you can call it that, as part of the digital to physical integration that we're building. So absolutely, it's going to be so exciting seeing these events come up and seeing what we can build.
I think the events is they're let's take the example of music. You've got it's either a performance that's live streamed into the world, or it's live in world, involving some of the like the experience that we had with the Chinese community and the DJ and for the Dragon Boat Festival. But the experience can live on after that specific performance. We have some artists like Alice in Wonderland who has a presence in the world, and that's an area where a fan can go in and continue to experience either elements of the performance or just generally have a fan experience with that artist. And then you can obviously see the crossover there with how that can work with merchandise and other things. So
Fantastic. And yeah, I guess the kinds of merchandise could be anything once Boson Protocol is in there, and we could have any physical item, attach that to maybe even a wearable in the future. So let's see. I've seen a question in the chat about how soon is the Decentraland Mall expected to be built. So just to give a bit of context for everybody, we hope to be able to showcase this later in 2021. So yeah, watch this space. I think that's all of my questions for you, Dave. So I guess we will hand back to Alastair.
Hold the line, caller. I'm just getting my video ready. Awesome. Well, yeah, phenomenal. I love what's going on, building communities, and yeah, that's how this whole kind of new realm of job has come around. One of our core team, Elad, he's our sort of Metaverse SME, shall we say, and we were discussing a position, writing a job spec for it, and he just said it's absolutely made my day. And you know, the hard work that he's put into getting really into this space over the years, to see Metaverse, Decentraland, other ones available, you know, just on a job description as something that people are going to be working on in their day-to-day job. And it's this really cool transition of, and something that I've kind of seen, not firsthand, but semi-firsthand from working in IT recruitment for far too long, from way too young of an age, is the kind of the elevation of the tech team from kind of very much like the IT crowd kind of kept downstairs to actually kind of being up there in the day-to-day interactions with boards of companies. And it's no longer a business that is supported by technology. It's technology is the business, and the people around it support that. I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, but I hope you know what I mean. It's not just kind of some people with computers over here and the rest of it is sort of business people. It really is the forefront of every single business and what powers them. So it's great to see. Justin and Matt, do you want to jump back on and we'll get onto the Q&A?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Let's do this.
There we go. Right, well, we'll start from the top.
Can we pick off the top? Are there any shirt questions or?
I think my wearables
internal
question.
joke of Alastair. I was just going to compliment Alastair on how he's recycled his curtains for that shirt. Is lovely.
Well, these will be up next.
Oh.
Do you plan to create a support program for an academy to speed up the development process for content creators? I think, Matt, you alluded to this earlier. So, yeah, how can you get in touch?
Yeah, I mean, no. I think there's two things to say there. The first one is that we are sort of actively looking for creators and other sort of individuals and companies who are building in this space and who are interested in sort of forming a sort of a creative ecosystem around some of the partnerships we're putting together, and that is a sort of a fairly loose structure at the moment, but we have a sort of a grant program that we're working on, which is more structured around sort of like individual and standalone projects, or you know, it's worth getting in touch with myself or Alastair, Telegram, or on our Discord channel to sort of talk some more if you do have something that you think might be useful and relevant. I think more broadly also, you're sort of talking about, you know, education and onboarding, and that is very much a sort of like a big focus of ours, and we'll be doing a project over the summer on that. Sort of our focus on the moment is on sort of some of the sort of like the foundational development work, getting sort of like, you know, progressively enhancing our protocol and things like that. But within the next few months, we'll be looking to sort of both start stimulating that ecosystem of other people who are sort of like building with us in that sort of open source way, as well as providing sort of training, education grants, things like that around building the community that way too.
Great, thank you. I think this one is one for Dave. Are there plans for Decentraland to be available on mobile?
Long-term plans, yeah. We get a lot of questions about a desktop client, and mobile would be amazing too. I think at this stage, it's about making the existing experience as technically robust and seamless as possible. But these are all, the wishes of the community are shared by the development and the community who are all involved in helping to make it more robust. Yeah.
Is that something that the DAO would have to vote on in terms of development?
That's a good question. I can ask. I might be talking out of turn if I said yes, but I think that it could very well involve the DAO. But I'd have to clarify that. Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. Does your protocol take escrow on Ethereum layer 1 when layer 2? I'm going to guess this is possibly one for Holly.
Sure. So as you may know from previous crowdcasts, we have deployed our version 0.1 of the smart contracts to Rinkeby. As part of our main, you could call it main or flagship deployment for the Metaverse Commerce project, we are of course looking at scaling solutions. So without going into too much detail, I think it's safe to say you can expect an update on this pretty soon.
Great, thank you. Up next we have, and I think this might have been covered off earlier, but it might be a very slightly different question. Are you licensing your escrow payment method to other businesses or clients to use for checkout in their stores?
I'm happy to answer that one. So, the core Boson Protocol is going to be permissionless, open source. So, yeah, the kind of point of it is that it can be integrated, it's composable, and it can connect to sort of Web3 protocols, dApps, and also we'll be integrating with the existing Web2 sort of e-commerce ecosystem.
Great, thank you.
So not licensing, open source, and permissionless.
Awesome. I think that certainly fits within the decentralized and Web3 sort of narrative as well. That we're not building something to rent out to other people. It's there and it's there to be used. Question for Dave here. When do you think we will start seeing VR integrated into Decentraland, or has it already happened?
I've seen some makeshift VR approaches by people in the community. VR is obviously another thing that would be amazing to implement. I think to this point the adoption and the technology hasn't been there, but again it's long term and it's on the wish list. Absolutely.
Great. I've seen Oculuses and other VR headsets popping up all over the place, and it's always an attention grabber, that's for sure. When someone has a pop-up stand, you kind of put the headset on, and a lot of them make for great highlight reels on You've Been Framed as well. And for those of you tuning in internationally, it's probably the genesis of Fail Army YouTube channel, with many a TV screen being punched during a boxing game in VR. What is your biggest priority when it comes to the idea of digital to physical transactions? So I didn't really frame that from what I was saying to introducing a question.
Shall I pick that up? Or who's that one for?
You go, Justin.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I guess biggest priority is for twofold really. One is we're developing a protocol that works and that automates, minimizes trust, cost, and friction. And the second is is getting it used. So, you know, the many technologies that have been amazing that have just never got used. And so that's the really kind of the two streams we're working on. And this whole, you know, virtual mall initiative is about building incredibly cool products on top of this incredibly cool technology in order to get it used. So I know you asked for one priority, but you got two.
Great, thank you, Justin. When will your Discord be available? I'll answer that one. It's been shared in the chat here. We're doing a kind of a soft launch, so that link is available for 7 days. So make sure that you click it fast and you are quick. No, that's removing the wrong question. Apologies. Here we go. No, that's about VR. We've just answered that one. What are some of your best experiences and developments you're seeing in Decentraland at the moment? I think this is one for Dave.
Best developments and experiences. I think probably the one of the highlights I've seen recently was a couple of Fridays ago, the Pride Parade, which I don't think I've seen anything like it in Decentraland before. It was an entire road devoted to Pride floats, the number of people turning up with, and you thought you saw some interesting outfits tonight in the gathering at Boson, but yeah, we saw mankinis, we saw all sorts of interesting wearables on display, and there were also wearables available for purchase. So it coincided beautifully with the wearables editor and people putting things out to buy. So that's yeah, that sort of goes down as a highlight for me. I think, as I mentioned earlier in the chat with Holly, I think Art Week, this year's Art Week will be big. Just looking at some of the artists involved and what's going on with that, and just the number of the more people who are involved now in Decentraland in terms of the community coming in and getting involved. I think it'll just be a really big event. So that's definitely one to put in your diary.
We should probably put
Excellent.
mankinis on the Boson merch list then, Matt. What do you think?
They were extremely popular. There were a lot of people walking around in mankinis, and when we saw them early, but before the event, we thought, oof, that's, you know, but no, they were very, very popular.
I'll order some more.
Yeah, let's do it.
I won't let it slip that I do my own one. Oh wait, my microphone's on, sorry. This is an interesting one, and I'm not sure we're actually going to be able to answer it, but I know that Justin is a sucker for letting things maybe blurt out a little bit. So I think this one might be for you, Justin. Are there any brands that you can release that you're working with to provide them their first presence in the metaverse?
Well, I think I already sort of blurted a little bit. We're working with Ouroboros, the amazing fashion, digital fashion designers. So, it's certainly not their first kind of exposure in the metaverse, but we're super excited to be working with a cutting edge, an amazing brand, and we've got a whole kind of stream of other brands that we're working with, and we'll be releasing those in due course. But I tend to blurt less when I've got Matt actually on the crowdcast with me, because he's normally the one that polices the release of these things. Like,
yeah, I mean,
Matt's sat there with a trigger to his shot collar. No,
we're putting together. We've got together a great team focused on this area, both on sort of like the technology side with Holly's team, but also on the partnerships side. And Daniel, who's in our team now, he's worked for a long time in the fashion industry. Has got loads of great connections. Used to sort of book talent and do partnerships in that space. So we've got a significant amount of stuff sort of ongoing. I think one thing I've learned working in crypto for the last 3.5 years is do not ever pre-announce the announcement. So you'll have to wait for that one, I think.
Very diplomatic from both of you. last question here, and then we'll wrap up and let everyone have their evenings. And Holly and I were talking off air beforehand that she had a curry last night, and I haven't had a curry in about 2 years, so I'm definitely getting one myself. The estate that you have bought in Decentraland is enormous. Do you think that you'll be able to utilize that? If so, do you plan to buy more land, or are you fine with what you have acquired?
I mean, I can take that one. I think it's large. Well, it's. I think we're gonna use it all and have to rotate and recycle the space. I think there are so many brands, events, creators, artists that just want to, kind of do things in Decentraland. That I think there's a distinct possibility of a sort of an additional site, or potentially a sort of an extension.
Yeah, I guess just think of all of the things that we buy in real life. You can buy all of those in the metaverse, and it's not just physical items that you can touch, it's real world services as well. So yeah, I guess the possibilities are quite endless.
I think one sort of observation, like I think Dave, you touched on this when you were doing your segment with Holly earlier, is that it's okay, but not the limit of the potential to replicate real world experiences in virtual worlds, right? Like, we also sort of, when we talk to people, you think about what can you do here that you couldn't do anywhere else. We present a sort of a super real type environment, right? And there are all sorts of manifest real experiences that would be too costly, too difficult, that would defy the laws of physics, right? and I think having a sort of a big sort of canvas essentially to sort of experiment with the potential is a huge opportunity, so that's kind of why we kind of have got what we do have, so that we can act as a sort of a curator for experiences that other people might want to put on. And the other great thing about this type of environment is that we can infinitely create, recreate, and make again. And so that's sort of a great platform or canvas for expression and creativity.
Yeah, I think I've just seen Joshua Taylor has said the metaverse is limitless, and I think the only kind of limitations of what you can do digitally is all in your head. Like, if you can dream it, you can probably create some version of that in the metaverse. So yeah, I think there's definitely exciting times ahead on that front. And from my side of things, on the community front, I'm really looking forward to kind of expanding that out and seeing what's possible. Everyone's had a challenging year. I won't go too much in it, but everyone's had a challenging year, and it's what's beautiful about metaverses is that people from any walk of life, anywhere in the world that has an internet connection, can meet and bond and be there with someone that they've potentially never even met before. I was reading an article about it the other day, and people have kind of met other avatars and had weddings and had these true human connections, but not necessarily with themselves, but with personas around them as well. So it's very interesting that you can be wherever you want to be, but also be whoever you want to be without borders and constraints on it in a digital world. So it's absolutely fascinating. And on that kind of quite impromptu poetic note, I think that wraps up all of the questions. So yeah. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Matt, Holly, Justin, Dave, thank you.